favorite or add a new shortcut, all you have to do is right click the option and then set the keybind. So here's gonna be all of the collections I usually use, like intake, outtake, drivetrain, and belts, and that way it's gonna be a lot easier to animate. And these are the shortcuts that I use when using, for example, select pattern, decimate modifier, copy constraints to selected objects, and edit mode. So here I'm checking to make sure that the unit system is metric and that the measurement for length is millimeters, as that is what FTC uses for robots. By clicking the move option, you can drag it for a rough estimation using the lines for the different axes of the objects. So here I'm just going back to select mode and then selecting transform orientation and making sure it's normal, and this way it'll be perpendicular to the object's flat surface, and it'll be able to better calculate exactly which axis is going to be best for doing most of your transformations. Also, make sure to select transform pivot point and then active element, and this will make it easier for when we're going to use one object to control other objects. By pressing G, you grab the object and you can press X, Y, or Z to determine the axis. Let's say you want to make it the global axis instead. To do that, press G, then Y, and then Y again, and that will make it the Y global or world axis. For grabbing the rotation, you can press R, then X, Y, or Z, and you have the option between switching between grab and rotation by pressing G or R. To make it video format, go to Output Properties, then Output, then File Format, and change it to FFmpeg Video. Now it's time to save your file into a different path. So to do that, we're going to go to Output Path and accept it and save it in a folder that is separate for your videos. Here are 4 options to optimize your video. So I use encoding and the container is MPEG-4, and that will make it MP4. There's also the option to auto split the output, but I personally don't use that. The video codec I use is H.264 for video compression, and the output quality I use is low for faster renders, and the encoding speed I use is real time for fast encoding. For some quality of life features, you can go to shading and then object color and make it random, and that'll make it easier to see all your objects. You can also go to viewport overlays and disable extras and relationship lines to make it easier to see your objects. And then you can go and press Shift, Option, and Z, and this will hide or show your overlays. And then another thing you're going to need to know is edit mode, and that is assigned with tab. I also assigned it Shift E instead of tab because it's just easier for me to remember because edit has the letter E. Now for some optimization, you can press the drop down and then press statistics, and you want to make sure that that triangle count is below 2 million ideally, especially if you have a lower end computer, as every single scene is going to have those polygons. Now a quick warning before using the decimate modifier is that it unlinks the object data, so that means that if one object is linked to another one, it's going to end up using both of their meshes instead of just one object's mesh. So I recommend just making sure that if you're going through with a decimate modifier, you're also willing to link all the objects back together so that you get the best results possible. So one of the ways to get that poly count down is by using the decimate modifier by going to the modifier tab and adding it and searching the decimate. And then the first one you're going to do is planar, and you're going to delimit it by sharp and normal. And then you're going to copy it to all the things by selecting object and drop down and copying the modifier to all the selected objects. Also, make sure to hold down Option when you're applying, so that way it applies to all the objects. And then you're going to do the same thing after applying the modifier with the collapse, and you're going to set it to 0.5, so it's going to basically half the polygons like all around, and this should hopefully get your poly count lower. So here I'm using select, then select pattern, and in this way, when I have a word in between the two asterisks, it's easier to search certain things like belts, and then I just select those two belts and then link their object data, and as you can see, the poly count goes down. Now it's time for camera animation. So first I'm going to clean everything up, then click on animation, and if you click the top right of the viewport, you'll be able to see an option either vertical or horizontal split, and I prefer vertical split just so I can have the camera on the right side and the animation workflow on the left side. So here I'm just unhiding the camera and setting it as the active camera. Now here are some other quality of life things by going into the object data properties, viewport display, and then toggling limits, name, and Passepartout. And I set the Passepartout to 1 just so it removes the excess camera view, the name so I know which camera it is, and I can see the camera limits. You can also hide the toolbars by pressing T, and the gizmo by pressing the bow and arrow icon. You can also adjust the clip start and end values so that where your camera starts and where it ends is defined, and just make sure it's big enough so that you can see everything in your scene with your camera. The yellow plus button is how you control your focus distance, which is basically what object you're focusing on, and it'll blur the rest of the background, and I'll show you how to control it by rigging it. And by adjusting the camera's focal length, it's basically like controlling how much the camera is able to zoom without actually moving the camera. So to start rigging the camera, I'm going to add 2 empties that won't appear in the render, but they'll be used to manipulate the camera. So we have the plane axis and the sphere, and they're going to be both the focal, either the focal target or the focal point. Next, I'm going to rename the camera and then also move both the empties into the object collection. And then I'm renaming the plane axis to focal point and the sphere to focal target. So go into object data properties and enable depth of field, and then for the focus object we're going to select the focal point. Now a personal preference that I have is just having the focal point be wherever the focal target is, so that way that's the thing that's in focus and that's the range that I have. So in order to do that, I just have the focal point be the child of the focal target. Now I'm going to show you how I rig a camera setup. So I just have the camera be the child of the focal target, and then also have the camera be damped track to the focal target, so that way when I move the camera it's still focusing on the focal target. Now I'm going to start working on the animation aspect, so I'm going to unhide the robot collection, and then I'm also going to change the frame rate to 24 as that's the best for most videos. And then here I'm just showing a demonstration of how you can animate the camera by using the focal target and animating it by grabbing it on the Z-axis and then pressing I for the first frame and the last frame, and then that way the frames in between Blender will automatically generate. Now here's a demonstration if you want to have your camera path be a circle. So I'm adding a Bezier circle and I'm scaling up by using S. And then I'm adding the follow path constraint and selecting the Bezier circle, and then I'm going to move it to the top so that way it takes priority in the hierarchy of constraints. Now make sure to have follow curve enabled if you want the camera to follow the bank of the curve. And then we're also going to set the location all to 0, so that way its new location will be around the curve instead of having an offset. And then here we're just going to object data properties and then choosing path animation and then frames, and then we can adjust the amount of frames it takes to revolute one time around the circle. And to animate the camera going around the circle, we just have to press I on the offset and then press it again at the end value, so in this case it will be 120. And then here I'm making a custom path by using a NURBS curve, and I'm going to set that to the new follow path object for the camera. To help better visualize the camera's path, you can go into Object Properties and scroll down and press Calculate, and it'll show you the object's location at every frame. Now all you have to do to extrude your NURBS curve is to press E when you're in edit mode and then drag it along to whatever distance you want, and then you can just adjust it by grabbing it with G. So now I'm just gonna hide the render rig and then go back into layout so we can do object animation. Now I usually recommend just splitting up your parts like intake, outtake, or drivetrain, but here I'm just isolating the front intake and showing you how to animate it. Now all you have to do is have the bearing be the parent. In order to do that, we have to select all the objects except for the bearing, then have one object be the child and select the bearing as the parent, and then go to object and then constraints, and then copy it to the selected objects. So now the bearing should be the parent, and when you move the bearing, all the other child objects will follow. So now I'm going to go into animate, and we're going to animate that bearing, and by animating the bearing, it'll animate all the other objects that are parented to it. Also, make sure to switch from quaternion to XYZ Euler's mode, as it'll be in degrees, and quaternions have a limited range of motion. Now here I'm just changing the range to 0 to 24, as that is exactly 1 second and the keyframes that I set. Now let's say you want to have something like a turret plate be the main parent that can move everything in an assembly. Now to do that, you're going to parent the bearing to the turret plate, and by doing that, when you move the turret plate, it now moves everything else. Now here, I turn off snap mode by pressing the magnet, and that way when I'm moving the object around, it doesn't immediately snap to a point. Now let's talk about drivers. First, I'm going to isolate both of these gears, and I'm going to make sure they're in XYZ Euler's mode. Now on one gear, I'm going to animate it based on its normal Z axis. Now right click on the Z rotation of the other gear and add a driver. Inside the driver, the object will be the other gear, the type will be Z rotation, the mode will be XYZ Euler, and the space will be transform. Because it is a gear, we'll have to set the variable to negative so that way it rotates the opposite way. Now if you really want it to be accurate, you can go into, for example, GoBuilder and check the RPM of the motor and then convert it into degrees per second. You should also consider gear ratios or belt ratios and apply that to the degree per second rotation. Here's a good example of the power of constraints and drivers, and as you can see here, it's really just two parts, the rotating part and the right side odometry pod part, and as it's rotating, the odometry just has a negative rotation because of the driver, so that it always remains parallel to the left side. And also, both the bars are just the same rotation like the gears, except instead of negative, they're both positive. Also, all the driver part for the odometry wheel is essentially just tracking the turret plate as it moves along the robot. And I'm using the exact same things for the wheels with it tracking the turret plate, as well as just having something like copying the wheels rotation with these pulleys, so that way it's less animation work. And as you can see on the bottom, this is just a very effective way of saving a lot of time, because all these wheels, pulleys, and odometry wheels are moving entirely on their own, and I don't have to animate them after I assign drivers and constraints to them. And here's an example of why knowing your gear ratios is really important, especially for drivers, because as you can see here, the toots align at these two gears, so that way there is no overlap and it doesn't ruin the immersion of the animation. Now let's say you have something spinning throughout your entire animation and you don't want to keyframe it all yourself. All you need to do is just have frame and do a little bit of math inside your driver to figure out how many degrees of rotation you're getting out of each frame. So something like mesh animation with belts is going to be a little bit more tricky, and something I recommend is just switching the toots for the belts and just making sure you have something like 3 belts which you can cycle through in your render. And here you can see how I toggle on and off these belts by using render visibility and pressing I on it so I get a keyframe. To get a really fast render, all you have to do is go into Workbench and then press render and then render animation, and what that will do is it'll create a default version of your animation without any textures. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed, I guess, the final video I'll be making on the TerraBlend channel. We learned moving objects, animation settings, camera animation, object animation. Yeah, I hope you really enjoyed that. If you have any questions, you can leave a comment down below, or we also leave the email too. And with that all being said, this is 14525 TerraBlend signing out.